Well, hello. I don't know what time of day it is, when, or if you'll hear this, but I'm just going to speak into the void like I've done for a decade now. So I'm going to look at the concept of forgiveness, compassion, and just healing and getting over it, snapping out of it, dropping it, and moving on. Those are all Masonic programs because, of course, it benefits an abuser or an abusive society, whether secret or not, to move on, to just be forgiven for their sins, their mistakes, their errors, their problems that they created, and literally never face the music they wrote and performed for years. So moving on needs repair. It needs remorse. It needs regret. And these people don't have any. These creatures, I don't call them people anymore, they're creatures. They've been possessed or inhabited by something extremely dark and extremely demonic. I have to say, in my opinion, allegedly. Why do we still have to say that shit when we know that there is a cabal of evil, and it does hot bodies, and it does do wrong? And we're supposed to help them cover that up, or not expose it, or shut up about it already, or change the subject. We are not doing that as women. Now, men, it benefits you to go, can we just move on? You keep bringing this up. Can't you let it go? You're stuck, you're looping, all this stuff. Okay, that's valid, because I've gotten there with some of my clients, and I understand they have a very hard time when they're in trauma loops to just get over it. We don't do that. We don't do that to people who are already wounded. We don't pour the salt of everybody has to forgive everybody and love everybody and be kind to everybody. These are programs. Please get it, that you have been programmed to shield abuse and harm rather than to expose it. Please get that. So when people get saturated and they get frustrated, or they feel like, well, what am I supposed to do with all this information? You're supposed to expose it. You're supposed to become a whistleblower. You're supposed to become a snitch. You're supposed to become a rat. You know why? Because those are more programs, right? That harm, does harm. And then harm shields harm. And then harm says, just get over it, get on with it, move on. I don't know about any other woman out there, but I can't speak for all of us, but my female brain, my beautiful, intricate, multi-dimensional female brain cannot do that, and will not do that until every woman and child is safe on this planet. So it's going to be inconvenient, and you're going to be uncomfortable, because we're going to look at you to say, we don't need you to, get in some big revenge plot. That's not going to serve anybody. We don't need more wars. That absolutely serves only the people who cause the harm, because we have no business in these countries. We have no business going and telling other countries how to be, how to live, how to show up in the world. We have no business, That's not a superpower at that point. That's a fucking bully. And I will swear, because this is all insane, that we have to get up and pay taxes and go to work and vote and brush your fucking teeth while they're eating babies. This is what I'm seeing on Instagram, is a lot more people are just talking about their everyday life, and the loop thought that goes through any human's brain who has a moral center and a backbone and a heart is saying, what the fuck? They're eating babies. They're raping them and eating them and trafficking them and profiting from that and breeding them in breeder farms and doing satanic ritual on them. We all should be so ready, not to overthrow, right? Because that's more violence. Not to, try them through the courts. They own the courts. We should all be ready to, yes, publicly humiliate them, shame them. There was some cover of some Australian magazine where they put a very handsome looking guy up and said, this man is a rapist. He's a dentist and a rapist. And he's hurt a lot of his patients, right? We should be doing that with every rapist who hurts people, who abuses their power in vulnerable situations, to warn others. So getting rid of evil, first you got to expose it. You got to pick the rock up and see what the little maggots are doing underneath, And you can't skip that step and go right to, heads on spikes, even though we might want that. And you can't just burn everything down, because then we go down with it, right? So I don't think we are just going to let it go this time, or move on, or give people a break. We're not doing that. That script is over. What we are doing is exposing evil and holding it accountable one way or another. And people don't have to love that, right? What about innocent till proven, guilty? What about, people's traumas from their childhood and they're, in a generational or incestual family and they didn't know any better. Well, at this point, everybody knows better, or they should. And if they don't, we're not letting it go and we're not moving on again until every woman and every child is safe on this planet. You can let go of that car accident that someone got in because they were drinking. Okay, that can be let go of. If somebody, took a life even through that, you can repent and repair and forgive and help the family with, medical bills. There's lots of ways we can move on from more minor, even if they are life altering and earth shattering on an individual or a micro level. But on the macro level, no, we're not letting shit go anymore. Buddha, let that shit go. Think of how many ways and how insidious it is that they want you so complacent. God's going to take care of it. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Then you do nothing. You sit there and yes, you pray, and praying is something. I'll give you that. But, you got to act too. That's what's happened is, unfortunately, we have a lot of men who are, who weren't groomed or trained to go off to war. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I think it's a horrible thing. So they have all this testosterone. They don't know what to do. So they get on porn, right? And then they start hating women because they have mommy or daddy issues or both. And so they need some alpha douche in a tie to tell them, I got this. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good for you. So believe in me. And anybody who still has that little mark of the beast red hat and doesn't understand that the word MAGA means female sorceress and that is a female, but nobody's ready for that. Nobody's ready. So they keep saying we have major or full alien disclosure, ET disclosure, because people will panic in the streets and they'll commit suicide and their little psyches can't handle it. That's fucking insulting, and you should be insulted by that. That's like somebody saying we can't tell you about the family secrets because then you'd spill them. Yes, that's the point. The point is secrecy is the poison and the cancer on this planet. It has allowed and enabled and shielded predators and pedophiles and rapists forever. So no. At this full moon, we release the idea that we have to let go, forgive, have compassion, or be soft to people who prey upon the most young and innocent among us. They do not deserve our mercy at all. And divine justice will happen. And it probably isn't our job to administer that, but it is our job to help by exposing so they can't keep getting away with it and finding new victims and new targets. So yes, that's what we're going to move on to. We're going to move on from secrecy to actual transparency, to actual unity, and away from the mental illness that says you need a diagnosis to feel special, or that says, numb out, don't look at this, look at that, or that says, but see, that celebrity got sober and got healthy and has a great marriage, so you can too. They're lying to you about everything. About everything. It is a lie. So you're going to be waking up from those lies and having cognitive dissonance. Not my guy, not my favorite, not the one I believed was good, because then you feel stupid. Just get into the feeling of stupid, because we were all stupid, but we weren't. We were innocent and naive most of the time. And we have a well-meaning operating system, so we can't fathom how anybody could ever hurt someone and take joy from it. Well, that's called a sadist, and we don't even really have stronger words than evil, but there should be, right? So how do you move on from evil? You don't look away from it and pretend it isn't there. You don't immerse yourself in it and join it. And you don't pretend that we can't have impact or that we don't have impact, because we do, with everything we think, say, and do, even how we feel, our frequency, everything. We have power and control over that. They want to have power and control over us. That is an imposition and a violation of free will. And that's why they're in the biggest trouble of all right now. So do we move on and let it go and just forgive and just like have a blank slate because it's a new day and let's have a good attitude? I tried that for years. I'm only mocking it because I get it. Okay. I get it. I grew up in New England. After every family fight, after every, miscommunication or misunderstanding, it was okay. All right. That's enough. Let's move on now. We've got to move on. But there was no repair. There was no accountability. There was accountability. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And then it would be like, can we just skip to the next thing? Because I'm uncomfortable that I did wrong, and now I'm making you uncomfortable for being, upset about it. How dare you be upset that I bullied you for a decade? How dare you? How dare you be upset that I tried to violate your privacy for a decade? How dare you? It was for the best. It was for protection. It was for safety. No, that's psychotic and it's evil. So we're a police state now. We're a surveillance state. They have all this facial recognition shit. You can't go anywhere or do anything. Well, that could be good. It could be turned around on the perpetrators, right? They also will be caught on hot mic and, in photos, in closed sessions. Good. They want transparency. They say they do. They pay it lip service. Then let's go. All that you have exposed us to, all this evil, all these crimes that you never get held accountable for and you laugh about with your friends. We're not moving on. Not even close. We're just getting started. So when people say, well, what are we supposed to do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, people want to call their senators. Great. You want to vote them out? Great. None of that matters, by the way, because they won't allow we little peons in their mind, we little deplorables, we little uninitiated, we profanes, they won't allow us access to what they know. That is the biggest issue. It's a secret society. We know the deeds are horrible. We know they do horrible things in ritual. We're starting to know. I've known for a long time, and still people won't wrap their heads around it. They're in stubborn, willful ignorance when all this information is out there. You're in the information age. Go find some. Now, I'm not saying to stop your life. You have to keep going. But we have to do it differently, And so it's a full moon. And I was watching the moon rise over the mountains this morning with this beautiful, tree branches and thinking, I'm very grateful to be here in Colorado. I'm very grateful. I'm not in a place where that hive mindset is, suck it up, buttercup, get over yourself, get on with it, move on, get over it. I'm so glad I don't live there anymore. Because to me, that's just more harm. That's just salt in the wound. That's just dismissive of people's traumas instead of being trauma informed. And how do you go forward? How do you move on? That's going to be the big question when people say, can we just let it go? Can we just forget about it, move on, and pretend nothing happened? No, we're not doing that. Because that is what got us into the trouble in the first place. And why these people are in so-called power. Though you're pretty fucking weak, in my opinion, if you have to prey on children and lie about it. You are a coward, okay? So how do we deal with the cowards? We call them out. And we remove them from their positions of power. And we take their money and we reallocate it to the victims, survivors, overcomers, and whistleblowers. And every one of you starts opening your mouth and telling your hard stories. You don't carry it anymore like a badge of honor or like a bag of pain. You don't fucking do that. You open your mouth and you tell. You tell. You be the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes that says, no, that guy's naked and you're all being fooled. There's my rant. And I feel better, because that's what it is. When you write, when you speak, when you purge it from your mind, you do heal. So we don't heal from suppressing it. And we don't heal from ignoring it. And we don't heal from looking away from it. We heal from dealing with it. So this is the deal with it era. This is the fuck around, find out era. This is the no more secrets, no more lies era. And buckle up, buttercup, because it is a bumpy ride. And there are also moments of beauty and light and transcendence and magnificence and love in the mix with all this hate and darkness and slime, right? So you just move on from football, move on from going to concerts, move on from listening to the news so much, but enough to see what the play is and what their old, very outdated, antiquated, inefficient playbook is. Steal, kill, destroy. That's all they ever want to do. And rape and pillage, right? And then cover it up and lie for each other because it is a vast and elaborate, interconnected, interwoven, organized, but chaotic crime syndicate. That's the softest way to say it. It's a cult. It's a cabal. It's a bunch of brainwashed morons who have to do all their hand signs to show their cult loyalty. That's a religion, and it's called Luciferianism, and Satan is their god. So whether you believe in that or not, whether you're Mr. or Mrs. Science or Mr. or Mrs. Jesus, that's what they believe. And they're the ones, again, in so-called power. So how do you forget? How do you forgive? How do you heal? You don't. You expose and you change it. You don't wait around for the world to change. You roll up your sleeves, you get in there, and you fucking change it. You do what you can where you are with what you have, and then you get louder. And it could be in the conversation, at Easter. And what would Jesus do about all this filth and this slime? He would flip some fucking tables. That's what he would do, And then he would turn water into wine and have a good old party. So everybody chill on the moving on and the getting over and the forgiving and the have compassion and the reset and the blank slate. Because that ain't happening. It's not fucking happening, nor should it. What is happening is global awakenings and global resets, and they are uncomfortable, and you have to learn how to sit with that discomfort, to sit with the visuals you're given of what happened on that island and what happens in church basements and what happens, in locker rooms at athletic events and what happens in underground cities and tunnels. You have to sit with that. That is your job right now. It is not your job to be inundated or made insane by it, but it is your job to know it and to not be ignorant and to not put your head in the sand, because the children deserve better than that. They deserve people who say, I will make sure you are rescued. I will make sure you are not forgotten about. I will make sure that if you were consumed in a ritual, that there is a counter ritual of prayer and love to send you back home to the light. I will make sure. That is my life's mission now. Thank you. You made a warrior with your lies. You made a warrior with your crimes. You made a warrior with your cowardice. And you go and cry war all you want, and that's the inner war you have between good and evil in your own life, right? So no, we're not going to be perfect people, and we are going to make mistakes and sin and fall down and get back up and do our best to change and grow and evolve, but we're not letting it go, and we're not moving on because it's uncomfy. That is not okay, and that is, again, what got us into this shit in the first place. So things we are moving on from. People telling you any form of a programmed response. Why you? Why would they target you? You're not so fucking special. Why? You're not that important. Why do they care about you? Every soul, right? The 99 and the 1, if you want to go biblical. Every soul matters. People want to say Black Lives Matters, children's lives matters, lives in Gaza matter. But no life matters if the lives of children don't matter and people aren't out in the streets protesting human trafficking and satanic ritual, which is the cause of, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of children going missing every year. My new theory is they didn't hit that school of girls. They made it look like it was a mass death event so they could kidnap those girls and use them as breeders and as sex slaves and food and toys. Get your baby oil, right? So no, anyone who's defending any of these people at this point is so brain dead and so asleep. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And so, again, willfully ignorant and willfully stubborn. Wake up. That's your job. It's not to let go, move on, pray for the perpetrators as much as the victims. No. Those are programs. See it. See that you've been programmed to be a good little religious slave. And absolutely love Jesus and his message. Absolutely love Creator and the creations around us, the mountains, the moon, children, animals, the elderly. These are the vulnerables. If you have an ounce of strength or integrity in you, you will be fighting this by speaking about it first, because that is the biggest revelation right now. It's sort of slithered in the shadows in secrecy and still does for millennia. So speaking about it is activism. Exposing it is doing something. And then the solutions will come. But don't rush to the solutions. Don't rush through the problem. Take your time and absorb, and then squeeze out the sponge. I don't say absorb too much for too long and make yourself, useless because you're crazy. But here's what's crazy. Thinking that we're just going to forgive people who repeatedly caused harm to you. When there's no remorse, there's no repentance, there's no repair, and there's no accountability. That is insane to ask that of anyone. That's Delulu. That's cray-cray. that's sick and unhinged, okay? So let people be where they are in their trauma process. You can't try to pull the caterpillar out of the cocoon before it's ready. You will kill it. You have to let it grow its wings, and it grows its wings through the struggle of this, yes, cognitive dissonance of, I just can't believe it was the one I voted for. I just can't buy it. I just can't go there. Well, that is your limitation, and that is your problem. So figure it out, And I'm not saying this without compassion. I went through all this alone for so long with no support, no help, and no understanding. And now I would never tell someone to move on or let it go until they're good and fucking ready. I'll tell you that. So there's my rant. I am emotional, and it is a full moon. And they're eating babies, so we should all be upset. We should all be upset. There's nothing wrong with you if you're not. If you're wildly upset, there's something wrong with you if you aren't, okay? There you go. There's your rant and rave for Wednesday. Happy fucking hump day, right? Jesus Christ, They want to hump everything that moves and things that don't, But anyway. So yes, try to be a good human, a decent human. Try to do your best. One of my weapons has been name calling them. I have nasty names for all of them because they're doing nasty things and I don't care. I will call it out. I will call it out. I will shine a light on it. I will be a rat. I will be a snitch. I will be a tattletale because if it keeps one child from getting raped and murdered, I will do all those things. And I hope you will do some of them too. But that's up to you and your relationship with your God, whoever that is, or whatever that looks like. They're eating babies, you guys. The world has changed, and there are better times ahead. I do believe that, but it doesn't come through bypassing, and it doesn't come through positivity slapped over all this filth and slime. It comes through honesty. It comes through transparency. It comes through restoring the dignity and the lives of all those people in tent cities who are all on substances because they were all, and I'll go say it all, or most or all, raped as children. And they could never get over it and just move on. So this is a systemic issue, and it needs systemic and systems thinking solutions. And we're not there yet. We're still in the exposing evil part of the story. So blasting secrecy and getting rid of their little hidey holes where they do the dark deeds, that's phase 1. But getting over it, moving on, that's like maybe 100 years in the future. So don't put that on yourself or anyone else. And everyone's going to heal in a different way and a different speed. Okay, so that's my heart-centered, passionate thoughts for the day.